have considered the question of the brown envelope. We have decided to give it back to you, Minister, and to ask that you seek legal advice from your legal representatives as to what you want to do with it and the people reflected on the list. That's what we suggest, Minister. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, just to orientate us, before we broke for lunch, we were at your page 43. And we had just dealt with paragraph 116, which would then lead us to the next sub-item in that chapter that you have headed resource and budgetary considerations. I would invite you to pick it up from there, but so we don't run into crisis time and into a crisis in respect of time. I would like to remind us that in putting forward your version, you still have a significant chapter to deal with, which you had procedure followed preceding the 31st December 2024 directive. The reasons for the 31st December 24 directive and the post-directive implementation. So those are the three main topics left. And just to remind ourselves, that's where we intend to stop, both with you putting forward your version and the engagement we are going to have with you, because it's those topics that speak specifically to the issues of PKTT. As previously placed on record, all other issues that you have addressed in your statement shall be for the second session of the Commission in the new year. The Chair will determine when that takes place. Your statement is extensive, and it will not be possible to deal with everything with appropriate and required depth if we were trying to cram it all in this 1.5 days. So I just want to remind ourselves what awaits us, and if you could structure, therefore, your summaries accordingly to fit in with your and my agreement as to how much time you need for that purpose. Thank you so much. I then invite you to consider from paragraph 117 and deal with that sub-item, resource and budgetary constraints. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. 117 taken together with 118 seeks to indicate that the issue of resources is of primary importance in a department like police, whether NPKTT is funded from the National Operational Center, which would affect the combat units within SAPS, or is taken from any other source, especially detectives. The principle is one, that we shouldn't use the budget for what it is not allocated for, and start picking up from different programs, because that is not allowed by Treasury. Then it affects performance levels of where money is taken from. If it's taken from detectives, for instance, it causes the standstill that is there in SAPS. Things like physical dockets, things like many dockets to a detective, which is very cumbersome, resulting into poor performance. and convictions and all of that. Having made that point, to say the whole of SAP's resources are an issue that cannot escape my attention as minister because it is so important. I indicate on page 44 that if we continue funding national political killings trust team the way it is happening, we are being insensitive to discuss resources that we have for making sure that the whole of SAPS is as effective as it should be. PKTT or NPKTT, there's a budget items there just for 12 months requiring that amount of money just for S&T and accommodation, 40 million, 883,000, food and beverages, 15,193,000, incidental costs, 6 million, laundry, 1.2 million, overtime, 30 million, cell phone, 440,000. Now, this kind of expenditure concentrated in just one team, which is temporary, is unjustifiable. The budget for SAPS has been reduced by 11% over the last few years, and therefore it's something that should talk to the way resources are allocated. If I come to this year, for instance, I do want to display, I want to come to just one small or one page presentation, which I asked for, just to show.
Minister, is that from your statement? Or is that a separate document you would like projected?
It's in the bundle. It's not. It's it talks to case management.
With an annexure to your statement.
Yes, case management, and I'm not necessarily focusing on that. I'm just focusing on the results that we have on, especially convictions and so on. You have this document in the bundle.
I think we will project what we believe is the document.
It's an extract from presentation to the portfolio committee.
It's a two-page document, if I may.
And I'll present one page. It's the first page.
Okay. It's got section 1, case management docket status, politically related cases. That's the heading of the document you want. Or are we in the wrong document? Perhaps let your attorney direct us if it is a specific annexure, and we will try and pull it up. SMP? 26. Oh. SMP. While we obtain an electronic copy, Commissioners, that is, it appears at page 565 in volume 3 of the minister's statement.
Okay.
Minister, we think we have located the correct document. Can you direct us to the correct page now?
It's just the first page of the two.
And under the heading purpose.
Under the presentation to the portfolio committee.
He's talking about the.
I'm just taking one page.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
That's.
Minister, we are going to project and then you'll tell us if we are at the right place.
Yes, thank you.
Is that the page you wanted
That's
to
the
speak
page.
to? Okay.
I'm just wanting us to take this as a package. Number one, that is 119, which I've just presented, the expenditure pattern of the NPKTT.
Sorry, Ms. Silo, we are in the right annexure. Which page is it?
We are trying to locate it. We were provided with this. We provided with this two-pager. Minister Mchunu's attorney told us it's annexure 26. But what you have on the screen will not appear at annexure 26. It's an extra document that we have been provided with. But the minister confirms that that is the document he wants to talk to. So perhaps afterwards, once again, we'll have a conversation with the attorneys to understand where this particular document fits in his annexures. I'll propose that perhaps in the meantime, he speaks to what's on the screen.
So commissioners, I'm saying if we take 119, which is the expenditure pattern for 12 months for PKTT, you combine it with the point that I've just made of 11% reduction of the operational budget of SAPS, and add this slide, you'll see what's happening, or contextualize, or use this slide to contextualize what we are saying. You will see that in a context, what's happening with the budget of SAPS is that it is nominally increasing, but in real terms, it is getting down as a result of demands of policing and the population. So if you look at this slide, you will see that when you look at work done, you look at the slide from the perspective of work done. Cases that are finalized under investigation, other, and then you have 191 that are finalized over. You have 333 dockets over the period since 2018. And then 199 finalized, which is 57%. But out of 191, there are 56 where the guilt verdict has been given, which is 29% of the 191. And then the last line, figure 3, if you could push it up a bit, you will see that out of 333 dockets, you have 56 guilty verdicts, and then that constitutes 17% of the 33 cases. Now, you can make whatever opinion and so on, but the thing is, when you look at it from the perspective of value for money in a context of a deteriorating budget, it will tell you that you rather have to review the way you want to use the resources in the department. That's the purpose of those. And then I'm adding...
Minister,
Yes.
just to make sure that I don't lose you, is what you're conveying with this statistic, are you conveying that the PKTT has not been successful? There's never been value for money from the beginning. Is that what you're seeking to show with the statistics?
Yes, in the directive, there is half a sentence or something that says, that talks to the value for money. And if you look at stats, you look at the deteriorating budget, you look at demands which are affecting performance, you look at what we spend, in 12 months for one task team, but then you look at the outcomes, it constitutes a doubt that you are happy with the value for money in that. And from where I sit, I felt I wasn't happy and satisfied with the value for money. And I may as well indicate here that when NPKTT was established, it was 2018, it followed an incident in which wherein Minister Senzo Mchunu had just been murdered. But to date, we are yet to secure or see a conviction arising from that murder. As we speak, my understanding from the family, who are not distant from that family, you are talking about 5 suspects, all in all, on that case of 2018. 4 of those suspects are suspected for conspiring to murder. And then 1 is a suspect for murder. So at the moment, 7 years down the line, we are yet to see a conviction that relates directly to the first case, which was almost a test case when NPKTT was established, and there is none yet registered. But let me move on. And I do want to say that is not necessarily to say, personally, I blame NPKTT for that, because they're part of SAPS, and it merely indicates expenditure patterns vis-a-vis the actual results and so on. There is then a question of inequities in SAPS between task teams and between units. And I point out that if you continue with National Political Killings Task Team, focusing on KZN, you definitely are duplicating, in as much as you may not want to accept that as a fact, but that is in reality what's happening. And it has been the case for some time. We have murder and robbery, and it has around 45 people or so. And then you have NPKTT dealing with murders at the same time. You would rather rationalize and you spend once in a sustainable manner, and that is beneficial to the people. So you stop duplicating. But I said to the National Commissioner, murder is murder. Let's not create a false hierarchy in murders in South Africa as South African police. Now, I listened to the National Commissioner speaking here at the Commission and to Lieutenant General Kumal. And as I listened, I got more and more squeezed internally when they repeatedly used the word traditional, that NPKTT doesn't use traditional methods when investigating. They don't use normal methods. They are using what has been put into NPKTT to make sure that they are as effective as all of us would be. Now, but they are doing that in a small scale, as I'm saying, dealing with small figures, and then the rest of the people with high figures, you subject them to normal investigation, traditional investigations. Even when you take blood samples, what do? They said it's 3 days for a political murder case, whereas it is 30 days for a normal murder. And look, I'm not going to be minister forever, At one point, I will go home. And if I come across murder, I'll be one of those whose investigation will be deemed as normal, as traditional, because it won't fall within this category. And the point is, are we on the right track? Is that justifiable, morally and ethical? And from where I stand, it is not, and not in line with the Constitution of the Republic. So the issue is, when you are in the space, normal space, listening to successes, listening to this, it is nice to consume that. But when you are alone, as minister, thinking things through, you in terms of principles, looking at things in a principled way, you come out empty in the sense that you are not able to respond ethically and morally to the question, why do you differentiate between murders? What justifies that? And therefore, murder is murder. There is no hierarchy. And subs must then subject themselves to that. So no 30 days for the rest of the people when you do samples, and then 3 days for politically motive. Because
Minister, just so I understand you, are you suggesting that a new method of conducting investigations cannot be piloted on a small scale before it is rolled out nationally? Because surely you must first test a new method's success on a small scale. And then if you deem it successful, then you roll it out across. Are you suggesting that that is not the correct way of doing things?
not really. I'm saying it is a correct way of doing things, but we should and could have done that some time ago. And at some point we should say, do it, because you have already created or established your murder and robbery, and long ago, but you keep on delaying. You must immediately do it. And there's no justification for you to postpone. There have been implementation letters, 2 of them, 2 assessments, but still not implemented. So it has been an experiment gone too long and not in compliance with the imperatives that we are facing now. So there's nothing, it's like going out there building a hospital, and then you put in surgeons and all the specialists and so on, and then the hospital all of a sudden does very well in terms of patients coming in and so on. But then you leave the rest of the population outside and you subject them to normal. And then you say to the public, I'm pleased that we are making progress and there's no other team or hospital like this one. But you know that all the other hospitals are not like that. I'm just making an example. And I'm saying that morally and ethically, it can't stand the test. And the longer we keep it, the more unjustifiable it is. And the experiment has been there for quite a long time. Now, I then moved to 136. Those were the directives, 3 of them. Although we are now running with 1363, but there were those others, and they were selected because of their impact on crime in South Africa at the moment. I'm not going to go to each one of them, but I'm just highlighting the reason why 3 were selected. Ministry has a number of priorities, quite a number. But then from those priorities, I selected those. It was just for one reason. At the beginning of the year, 2025, just take those 3, focus, get rid of them, and then go to the rest because of their impact on crime in South Africa, and attend to them. And I'm glad that 1361, 1362 were attended as directives, and we worked together and we moved on And we made substantial progress on both. The one that remained behind as a result of people changing their mind midway, we then diverted and sidestepped, and we are in that particular situation. But the two moved on very smoothly and made a lot of progress. I will deal with them maybe when I come back. Then there were several meetings that took place, 142, 144, 143, just highlighting our focus on matters, on firearms and on drugs, all those matters, up until follow-up meetings on those dates, as I indicate. Those were various meetings dealing with the same structures, priorities, and making progress. Still following that report, the Marai report on implementation. Now, I'm saying that on paragraph 154, I'm just highlighting the very same issue that as far as I'm concerned, there's a problem of compliance with Treasury guidelines. We get our budget allocated for this, and then we compel ourselves to use the budget for something else, which we can't keep on doing. It's not a way of running a department, a proper way of department, because it leads to irregularities consistently. And then decision finalization and the 31st. So by the 31st, by late December, we had gone through the work study. We had done the memorandum related to the PKTT, asking for money midway and so on. We had done with what accompanies the Marai report, the work study, the Marai report. We had done those meetings on the 1st, on the 21st, on the 22nd, listening to what PKTT and even spoke, especially in the meeting on the 21 and the 22nd, on the 1st and the 22nd, where I indicated clearly the need to urgently review the status quo in relation to NPKTT from the macro point of view. And National Commissioner indicating that in any case, that was never a permanent structure. It was meant to be temporal, and that we should go that route. And then December 31st, the actual directives. And I do want to say that when I indicated with reference to the PKTT, I attached the word immediately. Just to clarify what, in my understanding, as I was sitting on the desk writing, and I would want to indicate to commissioners that I wrote this, although it's not the subject for today, but I wrote the directives, and I take full responsibility for them, all three of them. I was not influenced by anyone, anywhere, not by phone, not by anything. I just had said for 3 days, 29, 30, 31, and asked myself, what changes, what impact have I made on SAPS? This is my 5th month in the department. I'm heading for the 6th month. And I need to see qualitatively the difference that I've made. And then I wrote these directives wanting to select just 3 issues that would make further impact on the work that we had done, and not come to the department and just stay and not make any difference. And therefore, immediately, I know exactly where it came from. It says...
Minister, maybe here is my suggestion. It's page 476. SM20 in your annexures bundle.
In my
Yes.
annexure.
So maybe as you are talking, have it in front of you. It will make it easier.
Okay. It just comes naturally. It says,
Minister, to assist you, if you could pull out your file 2, do you have your file 2 close by? It should be marked 2 of 5.
Is it a different?
It is not with your statement. Your statement is a standalone
in
file.
another. Okay.
There's help coming.
It's fine. They'll assist me.
So when we get to file 2, she's going to open page 476 for you, which is the disbandment letter that you issued. And it is that document that Commissioner Khumalo suggests.
Okay.
When you deal with these aspects,
I touch
you do
on
so
this.
with reference to that document. Thank you.
Thank you for guidance. I'm finding it. Okay, good. Yes, thank you. So I won't go to, oh yes, this is the directive themselves. Oh, I see, thank you. The meaning in this context of immediately is not as that of switching the light. Switch off that light immediately, and you go to the wall, you do so. That is why, from where I sit, immediately can't be read alone in the directives. It needs to be read with what I requested from the National Commissioner, saying, go and prepare the preliminary report. And then also later, after the preliminary report, there should be MINESCO. MINESCO is where minister and deputy minister, that is ministry, sit with top management, so that we consider what I have taken a decision on immediately. So immediately would then mean the decision has been taken immediately. Then prepare for those two things. So when you read that immediately alone, you remove the preliminary report and you remove the MINESCO meeting that was attached to that very directive. Immediately loses meaning as in the directive.
I'm sorry, Minister. I want to understand your use of immediately. What do you say immediately relates to? Does it relate to the disbandment, that is disbandment immediately? If not, what do you say it relates to? I'm not sure I understood you.
It relates to a decision having been taken. So saying to the National Commissioner, take note that the decision has been taken immediately. The decision. So it is you that acted immediately. Maybe let me put it like this to explain. It doesn't say, for instance, with immediate effect. It says immediately, meaning this decision has been taken immediately.
So the way I'm sitting, I think the two mean the same.
But in the context, especially when you attach the preliminary report, which is not required as of 31, it is required for another date, and then the MINESCO, it clearly sends a message that this immediate is not like switching off. It's not like whoever is driving.
Minister, when I studied or was taught English in my younger days, they would say an adverb. What does it do? It modifies a verb, I think, and an adjective qualifies the noun. That's the grammar I was taught. So your immediately is an adverb. So which verb in your sentence does it modify or does it relate to? That's where I want to be sure of what exactly you mean. Because as the sentence stands, it follows immediately after the verb disestablished. And ordinarily, I would read that to mean that you want the task team disestablished immediately. So the immediately relates to disestablished. So that's what must happen immediately. Now, with those views and a little bit of grammar insofar as I understand it, can you try to explain and make me understand your use of immediately?
It says immediately, yes.
Yes.
But then, because I understood that immediately is a process, it denotes a process. There would definitely be a process which the National Commissioner needs to speak to or respond to. It is immediately, but pointing to two futuristic events. The preliminary report, if you like, you would say, oh, okay, it's immediately, but not before the preliminary report is presented, or not before the UNESCO, because otherwise, what would be the meaning of writing, asking for a preliminary report, if it was not indicating a timeline? It was indicating a timeline. Immediately, the decision has been taken immediately. But then the process itself will be as indicated in the letter. Otherwise, I could have written this and stopped it immediately, and it would have given a different meaning. And anyone who says, yeah, what is any other meaning here except exactly what it says, immediately disband now and everything. But once you say it's like saying pending a preliminary report, pending the UNESCO meeting. But of course, that is immediately. And in the context of government processes, you use these words, but
it can't come to a screeching halt, as it were. It would have to.
Pardon?
I'm saying what you are saying, basically, Minister, is that it could not come to a screeching halt.
It wouldn't.
All right.
It wouldn't.
All right, Minister. Thank you. I was not interrogating you. I just wanted to understand your use of immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I, Minister, can I just follow up on that? I do apologize, Mr.
No, it's
now
quite
that
okay.
the
Thank
chair has started there. And it's on the back of this discussion with the chairperson, how you're explaining what you contemplated with the use of immediately. Now, there are two things that you ask the National Commissioner to do. You say he must give a preliminary report on the 20th of January, and then the last act in execution of your decision is a final and closing report that must be submitted to a late meeting in January 2025. Now, in the interim report, in the light of this discussion with the chair, what did you expect to see in the implementation of this instruction? What do you expect to see in the interim report?
I was expecting just any kind of response that would give effect to the directive. If not, any other response from the National Commissioner. And I must say, I've done this even in other departments a few times, even in a meeting, to say, DG, we have taken a decision now. We have immediately taken a decision. And I would even ask, how long would it take you? A week? I'm the first one normally to say a week. And DG would say, Minister, 2 weeks. And I would say 5. Because I've come to understand how officials of government work. They work very hard, but not without one form or the other of relaxing, sometimes in a situation where you really feel the pressure yourself. So I was expecting that National Commissioner would respond. That is the word. He would respond to the directive. But in particular, indicating how this would be given effect, how it would happen from his perspective. Simply because even if I left it in earlier, where I was explaining the powers of the minister vis-a-vis the powers of the National Commissioner, but they are the two sides of the same coin.
Yes. And okay, I note what you say. I guess we'll have a further discussion. And then you've told us what you would expect, you were expecting to see in the interim, in the preliminary report. And then in the final report, which must come in January still, it's a
Yes.
close-up report. But what do you expect to see there?
I was expecting to see, first get the outcome of the preliminary report. Depending on the preliminary report, then we'll move to the final. I knew that this is quite a tight time frame, but it was deliberate, just to highlight the urgency, to highlight the importance, to highlight what I wanted to draw the attention of the department to right at the beginning of the year. I knew that, as usual, there would be flexibilities in the process. At one point, as an example, I wanted us to hold a workshop, a 3-day workshop in February or so. But as time went on preparing, they then said, management said, no, Minister, let's hold this workshop in March or something like that. Even the summit, police summit, we didn't hold it at the time that I had indicated first, or we had indicated first as minister. We held it much later. It happens quite frequently that as minister, you want this period and you pronounce it. But then the officials, when they implement, when they operationalize, they find that they come back to you, they propose a different time frame. It happens quite frequently, and I hope not just me alone, all of us. I'm sorry,
Okay. I'm sorry, Minister.
Okay. No, I was going to hand back to Ms. Sill. I just wanted clarification of what you were contemplating, and I note your explanation. I guess we'll have further discussion about it. But I think I'll hand back to your evidence leader.
Ms. Sillo, just to say, this does not mean that we have started engaging.
Indeed.
Just a sort of clarity.
No.
And my colleague Commissioner Kumalo says that he too wants something clarified. We will.
And I just wanted to point out that I think when Commissioner Baloyi indicated she wanted to say something, and I do appreciate that we haven't finished that session where the minister gives his version. But at the same time, it is necessary that we introduce some logic to how we approach things. So in light of us trying to, or at least the three of you trying to have a better understanding of that paragraph, that last paragraph, I too have some questions. And I wanted to say, when I put them to the minister, it's all clarity-seeking questions, not so much that we have started to engage, but I'll do so after Commissioner Kumalo. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Minister. Again, still only seeking clarity. I have difficulty with your explanation that immediately refers to you having made a decision immediately, because I'm going to read that sentence. This is what it says. I therefore direct that the political killings task team be disestablished immediately. So my reading of it is that you were directing that something be done immediately, not that you were saying you have made an immediate decision that something must happen in the future. So if you can just...
Definitely, that is part of what immediately in terms of the decision that has been taken would mean. It would mean start thinking about the process, start preparing the report, start, aligning yourself with this or any other kind of response. So it indicates that even though we are not stopping now, everything switching off now, but switch on the process.
Does it also mean if you have different views, then engage me on those views?
Obviously, it will mean that exactly because in any decision that the ministry would take, you open it up for engagement with the management. That's why the second meeting after the preliminary report would entail UNESCO so that we have engagements on the matter to assess whatever would have come up from the preliminary report.
Right. We will come back to the directive, but for now, I'll give back to Advocate Sil.
Thank you, Commissioner Khumalo. And by way of clarity, still on the same paragraph, my one question has in part been asked by Commissioner Khumalo. My second question, still on that paragraph, and I refer you to the sentence relating to the filing of the preliminary report. That sentence starts with a word further. You state further that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted. Now, in the context of trying to understand what immediately means, I would like some clarity as to further to what must a preliminary report be filed. My interpretation of that paragraph is further to the immediate disbandment, a preliminary report must be filed. I want to test my understanding with you. Would that be a correct understanding, or do you think I am completely misreading that? Precisely because you say further. It doesn't say to be disestablished immediately and that a preliminary report be filed. It says further, comma, so that has to imply it is further to something. And going back into the paragraph, I am trying to determine further to what. And the only thing that my logic tells me is further to the immediate disestablishment. So I just want to test my understanding with you.
I want to see this sentence.
It starts, let's start.
Observation. Yes, I see. Yes. I see the sentence. Further, so I therefore direct that the political killing system be disestablished immediately.
Yeah, correct.
Meaning decision taken and then processes, but further to that, going forward, or no, in other words, then prepare preliminary report.
So what would precede the filing of a preliminary report is the immediate disestablishment, which, as you say, means that to start the process of disestablishment.
Only. Other than switching off.
Okay. I'm clarified about the meaning you attach, as I guess as the Commissioner pointed out, Commissioner Khumalo. Perhaps we shall revert to this paragraph over the course of today and tomorrow. But in the meantime, I am aware that you have not completed your version, putting forward your version, and I'm not laying the blame at your doorstep, Minister. I accept that perhaps an engagement started earlier than you had anticipated to finish that exercise. So would it be fair to grant you perhaps 5 more minutes to wrap up to enable the process to move forward? Thank you.
Let me try that. On reasons, therefore, on page 56, I think I'll leave it as it is. And page 57, I've touched on budgetary matters to then go to what is what I consider to be important, paragraph 114,
Yes.
to indicate that on paragraph 114, since the letter required a report to be prepared by the 20th, and given that I would be on leave, this is a direct quote, because I'm now indicating what happened after. Until I would be on leave until 14 January 2025, I instructed Brigadier Litoko of my office to forward the letter from the Minister to all Deputy National Commissioners, including Lieutenant General Sibia, to instruct them to prepare the necessary report. To me, that kind of response from the National Commissioner was a response which resonated with the letter and spirit of what I had written in terms of the directives on paragraph 114.
114 of your statement, Minister.
It's, is it?
It can't.
Yes, I'm reading. I see that it's 5.8. 5.7.
Minister, may
I don't know what
invite you
happened,
to
but-
page 59 of your statement, page 59?
Yes.
And if you have regard to paragraph 176,
Yes.
my understanding is this is what you've just spoken to now.
Yes, the mistake I've done is to make a quotation outside this. I'm
Oh.
sorry about that. I see the
It's fine.
error that I
It's all
made.
right.
So we're on paragraph 176.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. To say what then happens on the 3rd, it's that there is then the directive now of the National Commissioner to his staff in the office to say, write such and such a letter and inform Deputy National Commissioners and follow and inform them accordingly, which indicated to me two things. One was that we were one with the National Commissioner. When I received the news, or when I got the indication that the National Commissioner has instructed Brigadier Litoko as early as the 3rd of January while he was on leave. That was just a couple of days after the letter of the directive in relation to PKTT. And then the next thing is 16 January. That was a separate meeting. And the 17th, I will come back at some other point on those. But what is important is on page 60, paragraph 179, wherein it says, on 22 January 2025, National Commissioner finished a comprehensive memorandum to me acknowledging receipt of my 31st December 24 directive. Now, I want to go to paragraph 180. And then I took that directly from the report, preliminary report of the 22nd, where the National Commissioner says the following, I quote, "In conclusion, the task team has undeniably achieved and far exceeded the purpose for which it was established. No other task team in South Africa has achieved the success nor has been able to investigate and ensure the successful prosecution of perpetrators of politically motivated murders. The directive by the Minister of Police to disband the national task team has been noted. The initial objective and the directive by the President has been achieved, with a noticeable decrease of political related killings in KwaZulu-Natal as a result of the national task team's intervention and relentless pursuit of its mandate. The South African Police Service remains responsible for the finalization of those dockets in possession of the task team, as well as the finalization of the dockets which are currently before court. The following steps are being taken to wind down the task team without compromising pending investigations or court processes. The 128 dockets which are under investigation and allocated to the National Task Team will be retained by the task team, and investigations will be finalized, and audit will be done of those dockets still under investigation in order to establish which dockets can be returned to the station of origin or allocated to other investigation units within SAPS. The current capacity of the National Task Team will be gradually scaled down. The only personnel who are required to finalize the dockets retained by the national team. The scaling down of the team will depend on the 115 dockets that are currently pending in courts, with most of the court dates in the year 2025. It is anticipated that the team will complete the work before the end of 2025. However, seriousness of the cases and processes of court will indicate the course of action. So the 3rd and then now the 22nd of January, this is the response of the National Commissioner. And this is what I would have expected, and or any other kind of response. So what is evident here is from the disbandment report is that General Masimula indicates clearly in black and white that the objective has been achieved and what would then happen. But in particular, there was never an objection to the directive. So the letter as a whole, no, the preliminary report as a whole, doesn't indicate any objection whatsoever. He supported the directive in full. So on 5 March, we go together to the Portfolio Committee, we make a presentation on the directive, it is accepted by the Portfolio Committee, and on the 6th of March, we sit together, we discuss in more detail the presentation of the wounding up or wounding down of the National Political Killings Task Team and so on, which is now operationalizing the directive. All of that indicated that we were together, even on the meeting of the 7th, even though there was the additional docket, which was no longer in line with what we had agreed on the 6th. But the principle remained, it was never reversed, that what the National Commissioner indicated is being followed by all of us. But it was to say, don't add any other, because it will be counterproductive. We're winding down the site, we're adding cases through another door, and so on. But the principle remained so that it could be operationalized going forward. Now, I am now exactly where I'm supposed to stop, and I want to then close by saying, in the whole of this, the message that I was convinced with as we went towards December, and the lesson that I learned and the principle that I adopted and would want to stand by is that matter is matter. And that the shift from ordinary people on the ground, wherein we are seen to be servicing them, instead of being seen to be servicing people up the hierarchy at their expense, or be seen to be leaving them, is exactly what we are all complaining about, that we are creating an element of elitism in government. And we are creating distance, those of us who happen to be in government for that time being. We cut ourselves out of the people. The figures indicate who is dying, who is suffering, who is actually a victim of matters in South Africa. Is the majority of people. And therefore, don't drive resources away from the problem, because that's the core of the problem. Don't drive this service, don't drive this objective of stopping what is happening in the interest of a few people who, by the way, matter, but not more than the majority of people in South Africa. That is a principle that drove me and I embodied it when I was writing this letter. And I sought to make a difference in the portfolio by following that particular principle, even if it would sort of be seen to be swimming against the tide in terms of the sentiment, the general sentiment. And I said, I shouldn't be taken away from a principle in favor of a sentiment that would subject the majority of people and would make me ask a question that I couldn't answer. I thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, did you ever hold a meeting and have a discussion with the National Commissioner of Police and possibly other senior SAPS members with the agenda item being the disbandment of the PKTT? It doesn't matter if there were possibly other agenda items, but the disbandment of the PKTT being a focal point. Did you ever have such a meeting?
On the 1st of November, we discussed this matter, and I think there are attachments that point to the content of our discussion on the day. But it was not disbandment; it was review of the PKTT. And on the 22nd, it was the same, because at that time...
Apologies, Minister. Perhaps let's work through that answer with reference to the actual annexures. You referenced the meeting of the 1st of November.
The 1st of November.
You have attached a document marked SM1 that should be in your file 2 or 5. That should be the first document in that file. And it should read draft minutes dated 1 November 2024. Please, excuse me.
I don't see that file. I don't want to open it.
Page 1.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah, I was just drawing your attention. In response to the chair's question, you started with a meeting of the 1st of November. And I was pointing out that your annexure SM1 states that it's a draft minute of the meeting of the 1st of November. I
Ms. Silo, maybe check that the minister has got the right file. It looks like he's got the wrong document in front of him.
It should be 2 of 5. The minister's annexures 2 of 5.
And in fact, you should have a tab marked SM1.
I don't see it so much. That's it. Oh.
Thank you, Commissioner Balo.
Page?
The actual minute starts at page 96.
Okay.
And you
Yes.
see it's,
Yes,
okay.
I see.
So-
I see those paragraphs.
Thank you, Minister.
Yes.
I understood your answer. You'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Your answer to my question whether you ever had a meeting, an agenda item of which was specifically the disbandment of the PKTT. I understood your answer to be that there never was such a meeting, but that at the meeting of 1 November 2024, what was discussed was the review of, amongst others, the PKTT. Did I understand you correctly?
Correct.
Yes. Indeed, let me take you to page 99 of the document you've just been referred to. I want to show that what is in there actually accords with your answer. I'll read the second paragraph after the bullet. So at the top you have the bullet point,
Yes.
and then you have the paragraph that follows. I'm going to read the next paragraph. It says, the minister further indicated that there must be reconsideration and review of certain capabilities, such as the political killings task team, which are primarily about address serious crimes. There's something wrong there. He stated that SAPS should guard against creating structures/units based on specific category, whilst these duplicate the existing capabilities, bracket, e.g. text killings, political killing, all being about murders, close quote. So I'm saying that this actually accords with your answer. Now, let's move on. From then, that point, that is from 1 November 2024 up to and including 31 December 2024, did you ever have any other meeting that discussed the disestablishment of the PKTT?
We had a more or less similar meeting
Similar, meaning still a review,
on the 22nd.
still about a review.
Yes.
So effectively, or perhaps before the question I almost asked, Minister, what was the relationship, working relationship of course, between you and the National Commissioner from the time you became Minister of Police up to the 31st of December 2021? What was the working relationship like between the two of you?
It was what I could describe as a very good relationship.
Very
Working
good, very good working relationship.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, on the 31st of December 2024, you surprise everybody within SAPS, in particular the top management, with your decision of that day. And you do this having a very good working relationship with the National Commissioner of Police. You accept that that is effectively what you did. You as it were, if I were to be metaphorical, you drop a bomb like that.
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Why not?
The reason is in the narrative that starts from 2019 with anticipated reintegration of the team that had been established, then extending. The narrative was always that the NPKTT, right from the beginning, is for 6 months. And then it gets extended another 6 months, then a year, then another year. But in the minds of management, in the minds of SAPS management combined, both from the ministry and from management, it is anticipated, it is expected, it is something that we should be doing, even when you now had teams functional, Med and Robert. But so, yes, maybe an element of surprise, but not exactly, because it's something that has been in the mind, has been spoken about, and it has always been something that we could do anytime, just required somebody to come forward and say, the time is this one.
Minister, the PKTT is in existence, and for the time when there would be interministerial committee meetings at which the PKTT would report, it was always praised throughout, correct?
Yes, correct.
And in fact, all of these meetings, let me say most perhaps, most of these meetings are post the one event you referred to, which is what's that report? The work study.
Oh, the work study.
Most of these meetings go into the 2000s, and it's not just one meeting. They go into the 2000s. And the work study is in 2019, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It started in 2018.
So beyond the work study that you partly rely on, the PKTT is being praised at meetings of the Interministerial Committee, correct? Correct?
Yes, correct.
Correct. Now, you are suggesting that because something had happened or had been said in the work study, therefore, senior management of SAPS must have expected that you could just drop what I will continue to call this bombshell, even though they have been praised throughout, right up to the time of the last meeting of the IMC. No, they were actually expecting a disbandment. Can you seriously say that, Minister?
Come again, Chair, on the last part.
I am saying, Minister, right up to the last meeting of the IMC, which was in the 2000s in terms of years, they were being praised.
Yes.
And this is way after the work study report.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, surely if they are being praised, Minister, they can't expect that, but we're going to be terminated the very following day. So what I'm putting to you is, on what basis can you seriously contend that they must have been expecting that the PKTT would be disbanded? Just on what basis? They are being praised for what they do. On what basis could they think, despite our performance, good performance, insofar as I'm not talking about Dr. De Haas and other people, and I'm by no means judging what they, Dr. De Haas and others have said. Not at all. But I'm saying, in accordance with the assessment of the IMC, they are performing very, very well. On what basis can you seriously suggest that they must have been expecting that they could be disbanded any day?
Now, firstly, on the basis that subsequent to, and I'm careful, you will correct me, just shortly after the letter of the directive, National Commissioner in the preliminary report says they have achieved what they were supposed to achieve, which is not something that I think just arose after the directive. It would have been there, noticed and identified. That is my point number one. In other words, and secondly, I would say, on the basis that, therefore, they would have been seen even by management not only to have performed very well and commended, but have achieved what they were set up to achieve. And this is backed by stats, the deterioration, the decrease, substantive decrease, especially in 2023, of political matters, indicated by stats, down to 11, and 2024 down to 7 matters. So, and though on the sheer basis of the problem or the challenge for which they were established, and then discussions in the meetings in November, there would have been that kind of understanding that they have achieved their role.
Minister, I have a serious difficulty with that answer.
Okay.
You see, if you were giving us that answer having consulted with them and they had said this before you took the decision, your answer would make sense. Your answer does not make sense because it's something that you get to know after you had taken that decision. So on that basis, I say, or I suggest to you, Minister, that your answer does not make sense. Would you accept that? You knew nothing about what General Masemula would say after you had taken that decision. So that means nothing insofar as your decision is concerned. Do you accept that?
But if you refer to the meetings of November 1 and 22 November, I wouldn't necessarily agree with you that it was a surprise and given all the background, because we're already now in November.
Minister, please, I don't interrupt lightly.
Okay.
But I'm not talking about what had happened before now. I am asking a question that relates to what you say happened after you had taken your decision. So I do not see how you now go back. I'm saying, your answer that General Masemula says, what the PKTT was set up to achieve had been achieved, sort of aligns with your decision. So I'm saying that answer to my question does not make sense, because what General Masemula says post the taking of your decision could not have been a factor in your mind or could not in any way have informed your decision, because you get to hear of it after you had taken your decision. So I suggest to you that the answer to my question does not make sense. Do you get me now? Do you get me?
I get you very clearly.
Do you agree with my suggestion to you?
I would say the answer to your question lies not necessarily on the meeting on the preliminary report on the 22nd January. It lies in the meetings in November before I wrote the directive of the 1st of November, the 22nd of November, even though it was not directly a disbandment. But the answer lies there, that there is this review, there is this discussion, there is this anticipation.
Was a point, Minister, ever reached at the November meetings?
Pardon?
Was a point ever reached at the November meetings? November meetings which were about a review. Was a point ever reached at those meetings or at any other meeting before 31 December 2024 that there should be disbandment? Was such a point ever reached?
My argument,
Was such a, please, not an argument, just a response to that question. And it's a very simple one. And a yes or no could do, unless you must explain. Was such a point ever reached, Minister, that there should be disbandment?
I would say many times, Commissioner.
Before 31 December 2024?
In the sense that
when you are the minister, I'm talking about when you are the minister, let's forget about the work study.
Okay.
And I don't even agree that there was anything that there should be a disbandment even there. But anyway, the November meetings up to 31 December 2024, was a point ever reached? So I'm giving you a timeline. Was a point ever reached that the PKTT should be disbandment? Was such a point ever reached?
No, it was not. That point was never reached, except in context of what
yeah. You see why I'm asking you this question? Because you keep going back to the November meetings. That is why I want a categorical answer from you, whether a point was ever reached that the PKTT should be disbanded. So your answer is that no such point was ever reached.
No such point was ever reached in directly, as you ask.
Well, thank you. Now, my next point. You have a very good working relationship. I'm using your exact words. Who, with the National Commissioner, Minister, who do you think was best placed to brief you, to brief you on whether or not the PKTT should be disbanded?
Now, that's...
Bear in mind that you have a very good working relationship with the National Commissioner of Police, our entire police service, the South African Police Service. You have a very good working relationship with the person who heads it. Who do you think was best placed to brief you on whether the PKTT should be disbanded?
It would be, I would be informed by discussions. I would be informed by conclusions on those discussions, not necessarily to say, come and brief me on the disbandment, but if I needed a briefing. But I took it that the discussions that we had by that time informed all of us that that is the imperative that we are getting to. Looking at organizational structures, looking at where we were going. Somebody needed to take a decision, and I took the decision at the end of the year.
Minister, I'm not sure that answers my question. I want a clear indication on a particular warm body or particular warm bodies. And I try to assist you by making a specific reference to the person that heads the police, of which you are the minister. I'm asking for a warm body or warm bodies that were best placed to advise / brief you on whether the PKTT should be disbanded? Or does the long explanation you give suggest that as you sit there, you take the view that there is not a single person that you thought would be best placed to brief you on whether the PKTT, a task team of the South African Police Service that the National Commissioner heads, should brief you? Are you saying, as you sit there, there is no such person? You were entitled to just take the decision as, without at all being briefed by a particular person that should have been best placed to brief you?
Commissioner, I would.
So the question is two-pronged, as it were. I've not dropped the first part, which is, who do you think was best placed to brief you? And then there's the second prong, which is, as you sit there, are you suggesting that there's no such person?
No, I'm merely saying we had discussions, in other words, briefings from the National Commissioner in November, and we were agreeing that there should be a review, but it was not particularly on disbandment. And if there would have been identification of the need for a briefing before, it would have been.
Again, Minister, I'm asking about a person that would have been best placed. I'm not asking you about what was done or what was not done. Who is the person, who is the functionary that would have been best placed to brief you? That's a very simple question, Minister, please.
It is the National Commissioner.
We all know you did. We all know that you took the decision without asking him to brief you on whether the PKTT should be disbanded. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, if he was the person best placed to brief you, why did you not ask him to brief you?
Now, this decision, as I say, flows from the 29th, when I finally took the break. 29, 30, 31, I write.
29, when you finally did what?
29 December.
When you finally did what?
When I finally took the break to reflect on what we had been doing all the time. So I reflect on the 28th, I reflect on the 30th, and I say, let me issue this directive, and then we will start engaging after. And in the meantime, there would then be space for all of us to engage. If it comes to a point where we have to review the decision through the preliminary report or something else, that I would be prepared to do.
If you were open to a review, what was the big rush?
Pardon?
If you were open to a possible review which could have resulted in the reversal of the decision, what was the big rush? You say 29, 30, 31, you decide. What was the big rush? What was the big rush, Minister?
The rush, yes, if I could use your words, Commissioner, was to give an indication that what was supposed to have happened before and the wrongs that were going on in terms of budgeting and so on, let us discuss those at the beginning of the year, but the decision is being taken that we disband, and so that we now focus on the decision, whether we agree, all of us, on this, or we don't agree, it would be fine. I was flexible and I was open to that decision, but don't postpone taking a decision at the time that you think you need to take a decision. And I didn't see anything wrong in taking the decision, but open and flexible. to whatever that could come after the engagements. There are decisions that, there are instances where decisions have been taken and you say this decision needs to be taken in the interest of the public, and then we will consult. There are such instances that have happened in government.
Minister, I still don't understand that explains the big rush, especially if you say that you were open to being convinced that the decision ought not to have been taken. Why start with a decision and await a possible reversal if you are convinced? It just gives me the sense that you were in a terrible rush. So my question stands: why the big rush? Why this terrible rush?
I wouldn't.
Don't understand.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a big rush. It merely was an exercise of the power to issue a directive, which I could use and then have a discussion. I didn't see anything wrong with a decision and then we discuss.
Minister, you ministers don't issue directives for directives' sake. Why could you not rather say to the National Commissioner, I am minded to disband the PKTT. Please tell me why I should not do so, and only disband the PKTT if you were not satisfied with the reasons that he gave you. Why did you not do it that way? I just don't understand this inverted decision, as it were. Decision, but I may be convinced to reverse it. That doesn't make sense to me. Why did you not say to General Masemula, General, I'm minded to disband the PKTT. Give me reasons why I should not do so.
Well, I didn't think that particular way, commissioners. I thought that I would give the directive and we would sit down and have a discussion as indicated in my letter. And I didn't think that was constituting any offense or that it was in breach of any law, as it were, or in breach of the Constitution.
Minister, did you not realize that the disbandment of the PKTT would have serious implications, both in terms of the work that it performed, in terms of all the dockets that it handled, at all of the various stages at which they were? Did you not realize that? Well, I didn't write anything about dockets. This was not a decision like, let us buy a generator for the department, you know. It was not that, yes, that too has financial implications, but I think the implications of disbanding the PKTT would be far-reaching. Do you accept that that is so? I didn't indicate anything about dockets because I understood that when I issued the directive, it doesn't have immediate implications on what was happening in relation to dockets, and it wouldn't have, because that would be a subject of discussion in the preliminary report and subsequent meetings that would take place. This was a mere decision to say, let's start the process of engagement, in other words. So far as you were concerned, the effect of your decision would be down the line, as it were. That the effect of my decision would be assessed properly, engaged on, after the decision in the preliminary. If it were to take effect, and I'm saying if it were to take effect because you say there could have been the possibility of a reversal. So if it were to take effect, it would take effect down the line. Do you accept that?
If there would be,
If your decision were to take effect, it would take effect down the line. Do you accept that?
yes, I accept.
Yes. This takes me back to my question as to, it's not as if once you said disbanded immediately, your decision would take effect immediately. So if that were the case, I go back to my question, why did you rush and say disbanded immediately? Why did you not invite input on whether there should be a disbandment at all?
Commissioners, the letter itself, as I've indicated, clearly got written with a fair space for engagement. As I said before, it was not to say stop everything as of now, minding that it was 31st of December, and it says, let's engage through the preliminary report.
Exactly my point.
Yes.
Exactly my point. Why not engage before? Why rush to the decision to disband immediately? Exactly my point, Minister. But I will move on. Maybe let me leave my colleagues, perhaps will deal with the disbandment issue and your letter later. I have a few other questions which may not be few because of necessary follow-up questions. General Sentumule told us that there are more than 10 task teams nationally. Do you accept that this is indeed so, Minister?
Agreed.
Thank you. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is a unit, not a task team, that we disbanded, the police inspectorate.
I'm talking about a task team, Minister. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is no other task team that we disbanded because the only one that we could talk about was MPKTT, because the other ones were established by National Commissioner and they fell within his purview.
I'm not sure I understand that answer. I read your statement, Minister, to say that you can operate even in the, or put it this way, you say that this idea that you cannot play a role on operational matters is incorrect. You say so in your statement.
Yes.
And some of the operational matters would be matters that concern the purview of function, obviously, of the commissioner, and indeed anything that relates to whatever the national commissioner may have done. Would that not be correct? To the extent that you say that constitutionally, because you say that you can act even operationally, you say that comes from the Constitution. So constitutionally, you say you may engage in operational matters, correct? That's in your statement.
That is not to say practically go and constitute, decide who must get into the team, who must go and be based where. That is away from
No, Minister, no, please. I'm just saying, you say in your statement that the Constitution empowers you to play a role even in operational matters. Does your statement not say so?
It says so, but in italics.
Sorry?
It says so in italics, and I want to emphasize that. That it meant that you...
So you mean, oh, all right, let me listen, yes. Let me listen, Minister. Yes.
Yes. It was to say that while you have your constitutional duties and as identified by the Constitution, and the National Commissioner has his duties, but you don't operate with a Chinese wall between yourselves. It is the two sides of the same coin, as I indicated. Therefore, when exercising your duties, you are aware of how they will impact practically.
So you are saying then, Minister,
yes.
oh, sorry.
Yes. Operational.
Yeah. So you are saying, I'm taking you back to your point about not having disbanded any other task team. So effectively, you are saying that even if a task team may be operating in the most criminal and horrendous manner, you would never ever disband it purely because it was set up by the National Commissioner.
No, I'm not saying that. There would be an engagement, there would be a discussion to say what is happening here, and let us discuss what we are getting in terms of what this task team is doing or what is happening around this task team, either because it gives us bad image or for whatever reason. Then we would engage, because that would be a task team established in terms of 11(2)(d).
And if the National Commissioner dug in his heels, you would throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm not disbanding this task team because it was established by the National Commissioner.
Not at all. We would engage further.
No. Let's take you to the very end point where even you are satisfied that further engagement is not going to take you anywhere. So the National Commissioner is digging in his heels. You would throw your hands up in the air.
Not at all. It would mean that we are now incompatible. And because the National Commissioner is appointed by the President, I would go to the President to say we are becoming incompatible with the National Commissioner based on 1, 2, 3. And then he takes a decision.
I will leave it at that, because I was tempted to say, and then a new National Commissioner is appointed, and that National Commissioner is happy with the existence of that task team, but I will leave it there. Because I just want to test this idea that you can only disband task teams that have been created by whom, by the way?
Yes, you can only...
Task teams created by whom?
Yes, you can only disband the task team as minister.
Created by whom?
Created by first.
Because you, the minister, cannot create any task teams.
No, I'm saying this one, as I say, was not created by the National Commissioner. It was created through the intervention of the President, then the task team, the interministerial, and then deciding that there should be a mechanism.
But that's what informed the decision. But yes, the actual creation would have been in terms of statute, and where would that be? It would be in SAPS, and it must have been by the National Commissioner ultimately. It may have been informed by what the President said, that filtering down to the IMC, then that filtering down to the National Commissioner. So this must have been created by the National Commissioner as well. Because statutorily, there is no way that something called an interministerial committee could, as a matter of law, set up a task team. That is not possible.
They took a decision, commissioners, that there should be a mechanism in the form of a task team.
But the actual creation in law, actual creation in law would have been by the National Commissioner.
Operationally. He would be operationalized.
But in law, Minister, it would have been created by the National Commissioner, in law. Yes, it would. The creation would have been informed by the IMC decision, but in law, the actual creation would have been by the National Commissioner.
I see it.
You see, what I'm testing here is this idea that in law, there are some task teams that are created by I don't know whom, and others that are created by the National Commissioner, and that those that are created by whomsoever, you are entitled to disband, but those that are created by the National Commissioner, you cannot disband. I don't understand that as a matter of law. Anyway, let me move on, Minister.
But I want to put just one point, that this one, NPKTT, the decision was through a directive of the executive side of government, and then it was operationalized. These other ones, National Commissioner can take a decision to establish and to disestablish. It has nothing to do with the directive of the executive.
I'll move on, Minister. You say the PKTT expenditure could not be justified. Did you compare it with the expenditure of other task teams?
No, we were dealing with the overall allocation of the budget, and I only complained about the management, the way we were managing the budget and allocating it. I did talk about less expenditure on detectives, less expenditure on other enablers. So it was not necessarily to be confined to a particular task team. It was spread in the whole organization to say we are not allocating the resources correctly here and here.
Minister, you have said the expenditure of the PKTT was not justified. I'm asking you a simple question. Did you compare that expenditure with the expenditure of other task teams? It's a simple question. Did you or did you not?
No, I didn't compare it with other task teams, but I do want to say the reason to remove the police inspectorate was exactly the same as that of the task team, the National Political Killings Task Team.
So, Minister, for all you know, the expenditure of other task teams could well have been significantly higher than that of the PKTT.
Come again?
For all you know, the expenditure of the other task teams could well have been significantly higher than that of the PKTT.
Or could be less.
But could be significantly higher also.
And could be significantly.
No. Do you accept the possibility I'm positing to you, okay, Minister? Do you?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you ever assess the continued utility of any other task team, that is, of the more than 10 task teams, besides the PKTT? Did you ever assess the utility of the others, continued utility of the others?
Not exactly, but I'm saying it was in the form of assessing the organizational structures, all of them, and not necessarily one by one. Because even the PKTT, we didn't necessarily approach it as an individual team. We were approaching or defining the problem as that of, from the macro point of view, to say, what is it that we need to do with the structure? What do we need to do with the systems and so on? And as things came, we were then taking decisions as we reflected on what we saw as we were looking at the organization. That is how the inspectorate came in the form of discussion. It was not because we had an agenda item on any day saying, police inspectorate, we are going to be discussing it. It arose in our assessment as we were doing our work. And it came to our attention that there is police inspectorate. And by the way, what is it in the context of optimizing our budget? And later, by the way, what does NPKTT mean in the process of optimizing? And I'm sure there would have been any other that would have come as we process our thinking in terms of optimizing our budget.
Last question, Minister. I'm not altogether sure that the last answer answered my question, but I will not press. Last question. Why was the PKTT the first task team to be disbanded? In fact, first and only to be disbanded. But my focus is more on first. Why was it the first task team to be disbanded?
Now, I've indicated, Commissioner, that the first to be disbanded was not even a task team. It was a unit.
No, I said earlier, let's forget about the inspectorate, which you have said was a unit. I'm
Yes.
talking task teams, Minister.
Yes.
Why did you pick on the PKTT to be the first and only thus far, actually, victim of disbandment?
Now, we have stated the reasons that in our discussion, our assessment, our attention got caught by PKTT, and in view of us discussing the structure in relation to murder and robbery and all of the history that we have been indicating. And there is no other task team that fell in that particular category as we were discussing. PKTT had been almost 7 years and there was impact on the budget and other related matters. So it came. If there was any other task team that came, and I'm sure there would have been another that would have come later on, but it was this one that caught our attention and we then discussed it.
Minister, when did, I know I said last question, yes. I hope this will be the last. When did the thought that I must disband the PKTT first strike you?
It was 29, 30, 31. On those days when I was no longer moving up and down, I was just sitting and reflecting on what we had been doing in the last 5 months. And I picked up what I thought were the most important things, especially by the end of the 6 months, and things that would have needed to focus on at the beginning of the year, and which had a lot of impact on crime. And we then said, I identified those three. But it was just a process that came when I sat down, 29, 30, 31.
Minister, why I'm asking you that is because or rather, the very day before, the first one of the 3 days that you mentioned, the 29th. So the very day before, the 28th of November, 2024, December 2024, you were at a funeral, I think it was in Mpangen, together with the National Commissioner of Police. And after the funeral, you wished each other well for the end of the year and so on. And you do not for a minute say to the National Commissioner, I am thinking of, in fact, I have decided to disband the PKTT. And starting tomorrow, I'm actually going to work on my document in that regard. But I know what your answer will be. Your answer is going to be, no, Commissioner. You are talking about the 28th and the thought struck me only on the 29th. I was going to say to you, it is very strange that you did not mention the disbandment to the National Commissioner on the 28th. But I will not suggest it because you say you were suddenly struck by this thought on the 29th. I will leave it at that. But I find it very strange that on something so important with the sort of implications that you yourself realized, because you say you did not expect it, even though you said immediately, you did not expect it to happen there and there, on something so important with such implications that you would only have thought of it within 3 days of the issuance of your letter. So you think now and you act very quickly within 3 days, poof, you've decided on an issue that is that important with all of these implications. I would, as I say, have suggested that at the latest, you should have mentioned this to the National Commissioner on the 28th at the funeral at Mbangeni. But I say I will not suggest so. You may comment if you want to.
Thank you very much. The reflections that I made on the 29th, on the 30th, and on the 31st were not necessarily out of the rest of the work that we had been doing, because those reflections were taking the 5 months that I had been in office. Now, and what was happening only was that I then got time to sit down for the first time in 5 months to think carefully, what is it that we've been doing? What is it that we need to do? What would be the impact, or what has been the impact of what we've been doing? How do we enhance the impact, particularly at the end of 6 months and at the beginning of the year? So all these things come together. I'm seated, I'm not driving the following morning and so on. And then it comes to me that there are 3 things that I need to isolate and highlight that would make an impact in the first 6 months. It is these 3 that I ended up writing in the directive. And so it was not necessarily although on the 28th, as I say, I had no solid, or I had not settled on any particular course of action, if any, until I then said, but whatever I did on the 29th, on the 28th, on the 30th, and on the 31st was merely summarizing what we had been doing in the past 5 months. And then I then isolated these 3 directives and I wrote them.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Minister, we meant to adjourn now at 4 o'clock. We've not changed our minds on that. And even though there's a couple of minutes to spare, we think it makes sense to adjourn at this stage. Ms. Sildo, is that in order?
It is in order, Chair.
And we have decided to again start at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
That's correct, Chair.
Let's adjourn and resume at 8:30 tomorrow.
Thank you.